Hello everybody. So this is going to be an updated tutorial, one that varies very differently from the first one, on how to actually rip the latest version of Valheim. So if you've seen the videos before, this is kind of an easy thing for you to translate into. It's not going to be that difficult. But if you are brand new to this whole process, there is a page on GitHub that has an old version of the Unity project guide. This is how to set up a Unity project for Valheim. Okay, this is a little bit outdated. As you can see, the last time it was edited was by me 25 days ago. I'm not the only one maintaining this, but I am going to create an updated tutorial as we speak. So, Asset Ripper, as you can see, it's on an older version slightly than what you can find on their latest GitHub. These are the links. They will take you to the correct locations, but not necessarily the correct versions. So this particular video is only how to set up the Unity portion. Okay, I'm not going to touch on anything else dealing with code or how to set up a project that is viable with code. That'll be in a different video. Okay, so for this version of the tutorial, it's actually a little bit easier. It takes a tad longer, but it's a little bit easier on actually how to get it running. Most of it is just watching load screens. Okay, so you do need the latest Unity hub. Okay, this is a valid link. You can go here and download it, get the latest hub, and then make sure that you also get the 2019 4.31, and I believe it has an F on it, latest version of Unity for what Valheim is currently using. This is not the latest version of Unity, but is the one that Valheim's currently using. So make sure you get that. We'll go over this here in a bit, but the BepInEx pack is for the coding portion. You'll also find that link here. This is 5.4.19 is that latest version for us, okay? This is only going to focus on the Unity portion. So when you download Asset Ripper, you're going to get a link, and just to show you kind of how to get there, if you happen to click on this, is if you go to the Asset Ripper, if you notice, it takes you to releases and it takes you to the specific one. Just go back to releases and you'll see that we're on 0.1.95 and not what this says is 0.91. Okay? If you're on Windows, which is obviously what I'm on, that is the tutorial that I can best describe. The others for Mac and Linux, I cannot. But you're going to get Asset Ripper GUI, Win64 zip. Okay, you're going to extract it, download it, do all the things. Click the exe. I happen to already have it installed and downloaded, so I'm going to jump straight to that. Here is kind of what you're going to end up seeing. Okay, you're going to open Steam, and we're going to make sure that we have a fresh, super clean install of Valheim. Okay, make sure that our entire folder is super cleaned out. We don't have any mods in here. We don't have any extra files. We don't have anything floating besides what Valheim says we should have. All right, so right click on your game, manage, browse local files. You're going to get a fancy folder like this. Just go through and delete. Just wipe out everything. Okay, you can close this out. You're going to properties, local files, verify integrity. This will re-download everything that the game says you should have. Okay? If you have any previous mods that go into this folder for whatever reason, if you have any previous anything set up, this will wipe it out. You can also rename the folder and just have it as a backup if you don't trust the process. So we are going to browse local files one more time, get this fancy folder. We're going to need this folder. Okay? You can close out of Steam. You're not going to need it anymore. You can minimize this window. This just goes with the GUI. So what we need here in order to actually rip the game is to go here, go up to common folder. So one folder up so you actually have Valheim here. And then just drag and drop straight into Asset Ripper. I'm going to do a time lapse here. I'm going to skip straight ahead once we export all these files here in a second. So it's going to load, do all the things, grab everything from the game. You're going to see a nice little window that pops up like this, and it says, okay, now select an asset. We don't want to select a specific one. We want everything. Okay? So we're going to say export, all files. And I have a specified drive for a lot of the stuff that I do with either modding or coding in general. So I'm going to drop it on my D drive. I already have done this in the past, but I'm going to name a new folder. This is what it's going to be called for us. This is a dummy Unity project. This is not your final project, okay? So I'm going to call this Valheim rip new, if I can spell Valheim, but whatever. As I said, it's a dummy project. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to select and make sure that I've selected that new folder and extract. This is the part where I'm going to time lapse. This does take a minute, and I'll let you know what to start off on next. Alright, so once we have a nice export complete here, we are done with Asset Ripper. You don't need it anymore. If you have Unity Hub installed already, you would open up Unity Hub. I have a bunch of projects already. This would be typically in my last tutorial where I would tell you to, hey, go here, update, and open that particular folder that we just made. In the new way, you actually don't do that. You create a blank Unity project for yourself. Okay, so we're going to say new project here, but make sure that you have the 2019 4.31 F1 version of Unity. That's what Valheim is on. Make sure that's installed. If you don't have it, go and install it. Click downloads. Make sure it's here as a choice for a project. Okay, so we're going to say new project. Make sure it is on the version that you would like it to be on. So we're on 2019. Okay, 4.3.1. 3D. We're going to make sure that we choose 3D. Name this project to what your project needs to be. This is your final project's name. Okay, so I'm going to call this Valheim 20720, which is the latest version of Valheim that we have. I'm going to tell it to put it in the Valheim modding folder, which is where we dropped my last one. So I'm going to create the project, let it do its thing. This will open up here in a second, and we'll see what happens. All right, so once you're here, it should already load up and do everything. Now we're going to do something that might be familiar to some of you or brand new to some of you. We're going to set up our project to be compatible with Vulkan. We're going to install some of the packages that I recommend having, and one that's kind of crucial to this whole process, but also used to be just a recommended. Now it's almost a necessity. So we're going to go into Edit, Project Settings, and I'll explain this process here in a minute, but more or less the player is where we're going to jump to first. This is to provide compatibility with Vulkan if anybody wants to use the Vulkan API for graphics, etc. Okay, so we're going to uncheck it for Linux and Windows. Okay, so uncheck for Windows first. Go to this little plus icon and make sure you have Vulkan added. Okay, this just means that any prefab that we make is now compatible with Vulkan. All of our shaders and everything won't be pink if someone's using it. So Linux, if you notice, when you uncheck it, it already has Vulkan set. You can either leave it on or leave it off. I tend to leave it off just to guarantee that it works with Vulkan because I can see it here. So that's all you really need to do in the player portion, except if you want to use custom monoscripts, etc. in the game, bump this up to .NET 4.0 or 4 in general, API compatibility level. We're going to jump to graphics on the left side and make sure that this is set to built-in shader. With a brand new project, it's already set that way. If you happen to open up the way I used to tell you to, this was set to deferred initially, and you'd have to set it to built-in. So some things have already been done for us, luckily, in this new project. This is all you have to really do in your settings. So now we need to get some of the almost necessity packages, but some good packages as well. So we're going to go to Window Package Manager here, and we are going to get Asset Bundle Browser, which should be one of the first things that drops in this dropdown. So you're going to select that, and you're going to say Install. When you install this, what this allows you to do is create an asset bundle to pull into the game. Okay, anything with new prefabs, etc. If you have any FBX, a lot of things that come from Blender will use FBX. Make sure you get FBX Exporter as well and install that. Okay, once those two things are installed, I have JetBrains Writer, so that's what I use for a lot of my code. If you happen to use Writer as well, I do recommend getting this if it's not auto-installed for you. ProBuilder is also fantastic. I'll do a different tutorial on that later. I'm not going to install it right now, but this basically allows you to effectively use Blender but inside of Unity. I'll do a tutorial on that in a little while. So we've got our project set up. This is our blank project. The last thing that we need to do before we leave is create a folder. We're going to name it scripts. Make sure it is capital S and it ends with an S, okay? Scripts. This is what we're going to bring in all of our stuff from Valheim, okay? So if you need to go back to your browse local files folder on the Valheim game, you can. If not, if you happen to already have it open like I do, you would go into Valheim and you would go into Valheim data and make sure that we're already having that open because we're going to use it here in a minute. So now we've created that. You're going to copy and paste, not move, copy and paste the DLLs from your Valheim data managed folder. Okay, this is everything. Do not copy assembly C#. You're going to go one above it to Valheim. You're going to shift and click, and you're going to grab all these. Okay, Control C, and then Control V into this scripts folder. All right, or you can click them all and drag them straight in. Okay, that is effectively a copy. This will allow us to do that without moving them. Everything's all set up in here for us. Previously, the scripts folder was where we would create our assembly definitions in my old tutorial. You actually don't need to do that so much anymore. You're going to have the DLLs. We have our assets. We have our scripts folder. You're going to now, easy way is right click, okay, show and explore. That opened on my other screen, so we're going to grab this here. Next thing is to copy your custom assets. If you've already done this before, copy your custom assets into this window here. All right, so your custom items folder, like how I created before, etc. If you don't have any custom assets, really all you need to do is just quote unquote activate Unity. So we have all of our scripts in here. Everything's all auto-referenced. We're kind of good to go. There is one thing that you're gonna need, and that is on the asset store. This is almost a necessity. I don't know of any other real way to do this without it. I type it in quite frequently, but it's ng missing script or ng missing script remover, recovery, whatever. 9 times out of 10 this is going to pop up. So you want this installed in your project before you leave. So import. We're going to guarantee that we have that. Now, we are going to right click in here. We are going to say show in Explorer. And we're going to close out of our Unity project. That's the last thing that we're doing. So now what you can do is copy this path, Control C, and now you hit the Windows key and E to open up File Explorer, or you can right click down here and say open up a new one. And you're going to paste this path right back in here. Okay, so you really just need 2 instances. Now, remember that dummy project that we set up? I misspelled Valheim and all that good stuff. Yeah, so we're going to jump straight there on one of these folders. We're going to go into the assets. You're going to grab everything except for scripts. Okay? Everything except for scripts. So we're going to highlight it all. And then we're going to go to where it says scripts here. You're going to control click that. So what I did was Control A to highlight everything and Control click to get rid of the scripts folder. So we're going to Control C because we don't want to eliminate them or move them, and Control V into this folder over here. So once this loads up, we are effectively copying the ripped assets of the game into our new Unity project. This is a vastly different method of previous, but this eliminates a lot of those errors, and it actually eliminates kind of a lot of typing for you. Now it's almost just going to be click, 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 and watch it load bar, kind of like we're loading a lot of things right now, or just watching something go across the screen. So the ng missing script recovery that we downloaded is crucial in this process because it allows us to not have to go through on every single prefab that we want to mess with and fix the scripts ourselves. It'll actually find them for us. So once this is done, you should be ready to roll. You're going to close this out and close this out. You actually don't need it anymore. I'm going to open up my Valheim 20720, which I said was our final project that we were going to be using. And this will automatically reference everything for us, resolve all the packages, get all the prefabs. It shall take much, much longer to load. Okay, and that's because it has all of our prefabs in it. This is going to be kind of what we're doing from here on. This is the best way currently that I know how to rip it. As you can see, this is going to take a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of a time lapse for you. So you don't have to watch this go across the screen because you're going to watch it yourself. All right, y'all. So everything is completed. We have loaded into Unity, and as you can see, we only have one error. We get this error even in the previous tutorial. I don't really know what causes it, but it's just audio clip water boil level. Just clear them out. And look, we're ready to go. As you can look in the materials, you can see all the materials look fine. You can go into prefab instance, and don't open this tree, by the way. My famous one that I always open first is the abomination. So as you can see, the abomination itself actually looks fine, but when we click on the prefab, we see all of our scripts are broken. This is where ng script recovery is going to come in fantastic handy. If you've imported your custom assets, there might be a small problem with doing this in a slightly reverse order. So the situation is if you moved in your custom assets and then you set this up and you get to this point, but you have a lot more errors than me, or your custom assets don't really have the ability to fix the references on the scripts. Okay, unfortunately, you will have to start over, but there is a slight tweak that you can make that should fix it. You're going to run ng script recovery while you're still inside of your Unity project before you move all of the game assets into the project, okay? So when you move in and copy in your custom assets, you're going to run ng script recovery then after you've got your assemblies inside of your scripts folder, okay? That's the only difference. So probably should have said that sooner. I do apologize. But that is kind of the fix for that. If you get any more errors, I obviously did not do that because I'm kind of catering towards the newer people here. So ng script recovery, how do we use it? Do I really have to go to every single prefab and then click this little button and then open it up? No, the answer is no. You can go to project here. You could jump here by clicking on a prefab, or you can go to window, ng tools, ng missing script recovery, and then just make sure you're on the project. It'll scan everything for you, okay? This process is the long process, and I mean long process. It will require some of your attention. Make sure you have at least 30 to 45 minutes of just sitting here, okay, paying attention to it. So the big thing is we say scan the project. We have 1,900 broken prefabs. All that means is it can't find the scripts. So we're going to hit start recovery. And how we use this in the past is just figuring out what's a perfect match. So this particular thing is the console prefab. Console, I don't know if it has watermark or hover text or whatever. So for now, because I'm not going to be using the console, I don't really care about this prefab. But if you want to know exactly which one you should choose, since there are two perfect matches, it's a perfect match because they both only have one field, which is m_text. I think that it's hover text, but it could be watermark. How do we figure that out? We actually don't know. Let's go skip to a different prefab that might actually allow us to figure that out. So we're going to skip the console for now. It's going to load, And now we have, look, it found a perfect match on this one, it found a perfect match on that one for us, but it's having a problem here. So this particular prefab is the game main. I happen to know that this is going to be a zone system or a location list, either one. You're going to always want to choose the one that has the most matching. Okay, so the reason why it says one missing is potentially, the difference in what the prefab says versus what you have. So we're going to click zone system there. It'll load and go all the way to the next one that it's going to have a problem with, which is why you're going to have to sit here for a minute. Okay. So as this one popped up, it's got two perfect matches. So the real test is, which prefab are we looking at? Which one broke? As you can see, this is the loading screen prefab that's in, or the loading screen game object, sorry, that's in the game main prefab. Loading screen is likely going to be a rotate, right? Your little rotating symbol. So we're going to choose that one. Keep in mind, if you do mess these up, you can go into Unity Explorer inside of the game. Unity Explorer is a plugin that you can load via BepInEx, and take a look at that game object and actually see which one's correct, and then fix it. If you happen to choose something wrong here, just keep in mind that it will, if you are not looking at modding the game itself and just that's all you care about. If you want to do this process here, if you choose something, the option that you choose for something that it comes across later on, if you notice in the bottom, down here in the bottom left, it's actually telling you what it's doing. So in the bottom left, it'll say, asset, recovery, recovered. I think that might be chopped off on my screen a little bit here. But it will also tell you, hey, based on a previous decision, we chose this. Okay, so all I'm trying to say is if you choose something, you could be potentially messing up a lot of prefabs. So this particular one, I do know that a lot of trees break. I don't know why the trees break, but as you can see here, it chose both of these perfectly. But there isn't anything else to choose. It doesn't know what to choose. It tells us that something's missing, but we don't exactly know what it is. So what we have found here is, hey, look, it now needs to know what is m_text. Trees have hover text, not watermark. Make sure that if you come across a beech one or an oak or whatever, that you choose hover text here. Okay? And that is just a happenstance thing that I happen to know is it has hover text and not watermark. I actually don't even know where watermark is used really in the game. So I'm going to go through and click some of these. I will skip time. If I come across one that seems to be kind of an eyebrow raiser, I'll resume the video. All right, so I'm going to resume here. Mine stopped on the beta watermark for the in-game GUI. Obviously, this one's self-explanatory. Just choose watermark. And apparently that's where watermark is used. All right, next one it stops on is player, so we're just going to choose player and keep pushing. All right, so mine is almost complete. I haven't had anything else really pop up at all for any assistance aside from the player and the console. So as we can see, some of the things that pop up, like terrain compiler, and as we scroll through here, the beach small, a few other things, it says that it didn't fix them. So you can go back and fix those after the fact. So it looks like it chose floating, impact effect, tree log, and a few other things. So some of these might be broken, depending on what we ended up choosing. I chose hover text because I know hover text is definitely for trees, but as you can see, all these are trees. Trees seem to be a big issue with ripping it this way. I don't know why. This is kind of the cleanest way that I've looked at it as far as ripping the game. So a lot of these don't break. Most of them, as you can see, like Pine Tree 01. If you happen to be ripping those assets, I would recommend using a Unity Explorer to figure out the exact thing that's causing the issue. So we can fix this. As you can see, there is no option to fix. So we're done. For the most part, we can go here and click clear all the console logs. So we can go to prefab instance, we can open up the abomination once more again, and as you can see, we have a humanoid script all filled out with all of the enemy abomination, undead, etc. All the default values that were ripped from the game. It just couldn't find the references to the scripts because we actually used the DLLs instead of the scripts. The benefit of using DLLs is you can swap out the DLLs. If it's just scripts, you'd have to update the scripts. But in this instance, unless the game version changes, but all they did was update the code, Unity version. If the Unity version doesn't change, but all they did was update the code, maybe add in some new prefabs, you can actually just re-rip the game, update DLLs in this particular project, and then bring in the new assets, anything that you want to bring in that doesn't already exist. So as we can go through here, we'll look at the tree here. So it's breaking on pretty much all the scripts on the trees. So tree base is perfect match, and then we have ZNet view perfect match. It doesn't have everything, so we're going to say partial apply on that tree. We're going to open it back up and look. So it's failing on these three scripts here. I will show you very quickly what I mean by checking it in game. Okay, so R2 Modman is how I install my mods. It's very, very nice. I have the Unity Explorer here, which is what I mean. If you're installing them manually, browsing the profile folder and BepInEx plugins, everything's installed the same. R2 Modman just keeps your BepInEx stuff away from the default game install so it doesn't get thrown in there, and it all keeps it in different profiles. So this one's piece X-ray testing for myself. But all of this isn't loaded into your default game folder, which you would normally see, in the Steam Apps Common Valheim. You'd see it in here if you install via Vortex, which all that means is R2 Modman keeps your default install of Valheim clean. You don't have to worry about anything else. So that ends kind of the particular portion for the Unity aspect of things. We have a working Unity project. Some of the scripts are a little bit broken on some of the things, but you can replace them, you can fix them. It tends to only be trees. So the trees that some of the materials break on, they all can be fixed for the most part. Alright, so I'm going to load up Unity here, the game, and load up the Unity Explorer, which is a plugin. So if you install it manually, it's BepInEx plugins, drop in the Unity Explorer mod. You can find that on Thunderstore. If you're using R2 Modman, you can just search for it. What this allows us to do is see things in runtime, so we can see some of the components that we wouldn't otherwise be able to see. Even after ripping the game, we wouldn't know. So what we have here is Unity Explorer, which mine is mapped to page down. We can do the inspector, and you can world inspect things. So let's go over here to this tree. This one is a beach 1. So I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to mute the game so you guys aren't hearing the music that's playing constantly. It's a mod I'm working on, so we can go through and we can actually see the Beach 1 clone. We can view the parent. We see that it has tree base, ZNet view, a LOD fade in and out, static physics, and hover text. So we can see all of these particular components that are on it. So most likely, when you go in here and look at this is most likely one of those scripts. So we can open it up and we can take a look at it. As you can see, it's going to be potentially a partial apply on ZNet view and tree base once more. We can partially apply on that. And it does fix a little bit. So as we can see in game, there is a LOD group, LOD fade out, static physics, etc. So we don't have hover text on here at all. So that's probably one of the ones that broke. So we would add hover text. And it's going to throw some errors and say, the prefab instance birch 2 references a missing script. This will only happen if you're actually looking at a prefab that doesn't have a specific script. So then we can go here and say static. You can see static physics is one of the scripts from the DLL, right? So push up, fall, etc. These are breaking. I don't know why they break on trees. I wish I knew that answer for you. NG script recovery, I guess, just has a hard time dealing with these, but you can add them back. So as you can see, that's 2 out of the 3. And then this third one, so we have static physics, hover text, ZNet view, tree base, right? So you go back and look in the game. We have LOD fade in and out, static physics, hover text. So we have this one, we have this one, we have this one, and we have this one. So all we need is LOD fade in and out. And we can go back into Unity here, and LOD fade in and out is also a script. Boom. Now we have all the scripts for that particular object. Unity Explorer is a tool that I highly recommend you learn how to use. This will allow you to see what the object actually looks like in the game. So this can be UI elements, this can be really anything. So world is if you're trying to grab like a specific prefab. So like if I hover above my player, you see how it says player clone. You can pull all that up. You can see all the stuff that's attached to the player. And you can see the actual values of them. So, and you can close all this out, go in here and take a look at, what hover text is. What does it actually say? It says prop beach, right? We don't have that in Unity. So, as you can see, hover text is blank. So really, it just needs to be prop underscore beach, right? So just mimic what you have. Sadly, that does kind of not really work out to your favor on this latest version. But what it does do for you is allows you to see actually how the game's working in runtime and what all of this stuff actually looks like in game. So fortunately, Treebase and ZNet View do get populated with exactly what they need. The LOD fade in and out, luckily, doesn't have anything that you need to add. Push up and fall and stuff like that, fall check radius, etc. That should probably be found in Unity Explorer. Hover text is here. We fixed these 3, right? Pretty easy to mess with. This Birch 1, I am going to hit save on that particular prefab. So this one, likely, this 3 scripts that broke, that's going to be the same for all of them, okay? And then this one right here, if we open this up, yep, tree base is a partial match, ZNet View is partial match. We can hit partial apply on those. That will allow you to actually have the referenced prefabs, any kind of transforms, etc. The other 3 scripts are going to be broken for trees. Console is also something that you could look at. Take a look. If you're missing any scripts, if this process doesn't work 100%, it is kind of rare, but for some reason it always fails on the trees. I don't know why. I've done it twice now to guarantee that this works. So it looks right to me. That's kind of the end of this video. If you have any questions, ping me in Discord. I'm Azamat, hashtag or pound 2625, whichever one. Message me on YouTube, however you need. My next tutorial is going to be setting up the project once more for coding. Okay, so let's say you want to start bringing in your own stuff and setting that stuff up.